If you think this NFL tier list for logos is going to ruffle some feathers, just wait until I rank quarterbacks and running backs and wide receivers. Surely, as teams too, surely that's going to be a whole lot worse. But the logos is kind of weird because it's so subjective, it's so opinion-based, and how do you separate what makes a good logo from an iconic logo? For example, the Bears logo, which I guess is what we'll start off with. This is such an iconic logo. Everybody can recognize this logo, but is it particularly great or cool looking? I mean, it's the Reds logo, the Cincinnati Reds, but it's different colors and that's it. So, I mean, I don't know what to do with this. It's a decent looking logo. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I think I would probably put this around middle of the pack for logos, but there's so much history there and it's such a recognizable logo. Maybe I'll move it on into A tier. Is that a bad start? We're going to do it. Maybe we'll adjust as we go. But we'll move to the Cardinals next. I don't love this logo. I think it's okay. I mean, it's just a bird. It looks kind of angry. I don't know what happened to it, but it looks okay. I think C tier is probably about right. It's not a bad looking logo. It just doesn't do anything for me. I feel like they've changed their logo quite a lot over the years. It's like a bird. I don't really know how much there is to work with here. Although I will say, with the Falcons, this is a bird logo done right. I think this is S tier. I'm a big fan of the Falcons logo. I like not only the implementation of the team colors. I think they do that really well. I think it's a cool looking logo, but it's also in the shape of an F for Falcons. So I think from a design standpoint, as well as just looking at it aesthetically, it's pretty pleasing. I think the logo is pretty good. Am I overrating this? It's like, yeah, it doesn't have the history maybe that the Bears logo does, but I think it's a better looking logo, and this is what looks best to me, factoring in some other things as well. We'll move on into the Ravens. What do we do for the Ravens here? It certainly is not a bad looking logo. It's another bird logo. How many bird teams are there? Like 6? I think it's okay. I like it. I don't hate it. I don't love it. It looks okay. I mean, purple's a pretty good color. They have the red accent in the eye. You got the B on there for Baltimore. I think that looks fine. I honestly think it looks a little bit outdated. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Ravens go with a newer logo in the coming future, because it's not like this is super iconic or anything. It's like you can change it if you want to. But, I mean, it's fine. I think that's fair. I think B tier is good. I like it. Bills. The Bills logo is good. The Bills logo is definitely really good. I definitely like it. It's clean. I don't think they're trying to do too much, but it looks really nice. I think I might go A tier for this one. It just looks really good. I mean, it's just simple, smooth. I like this. I don't even know what it is. Is that like supposed to be a horn stretching out? I don't know. It just looks good. I mean, it's not like they have a particularly menacing logo. It's like a bill, like a bison, right? So I think they've done well for what they have to work with. Definitely like that. Carolina Panthers. I mean, it's a panther. It looks fine. Don't think it looks particularly amazing or terrible. I think it just looks okay. I like it. Again, with a lot of these, I feel like, how do you differentiate what is good versus what is bad or amazing? I think it looks fine. Do I prefer these other logos? I guess for the time being. But I think the Panthers is good, probably about middle of the pack. The Cincinnati Bengals up next. It's just a B with tiger stripes. I think that's okay. I think there's probably a lot more potential there. I mean, the entire reason my channel is named Bengal is because I like tigers. Tigers are so cool, such an awesome animal, and they choose just the letter B for Bengals with tiger stripes. I think it's kind of lame. It's not awful, but I don't think they're living up to their full potential. Cleveland Browns, a D tier. This is a bad logo. It's just their helmet, and it has this white outline. I mean, does anyone think this looks cool or good? I know their team name is the Browns, right? And it's off of Paul Brown, correct? Like the last name. So they don't have a ton to work with, but it's so boring. Like, go to the dog or something. That's at least a little bit better. Should probably be no surprise here. I think the Dallas Cowboys have to go into S tier. When you really break it down, all it is just a star with several star outlines. It's not anything particularly like crazy cool or dynamic or exciting or creative, but it just looks really good. I feel like stars are so iconic with Texas as well. And is this not the most recognizable logo in the NFL? I think by a mile, right? The Cowboys logo is just really solid, and it is the most iconic logo in the sport. Probably top 5 in all of sports. In American sports, certainly right up there. You got the Yankees in baseball, Dodgers probably right there as well. In basketball, the Lakers, LA is so iconic. And then when it comes to football, it's just really the Dallas Cowboys and then everybody else. I think the Falcons logo looks cooler, but you can't argue that this Cowboys logo is just the pinnacle of sports logos. Everybody knows this. Denver Broncos. The Broncos logo is certainly not bad. I think it's probably along the same lines with the Panthers. It just looks cool. I think maybe I've overrated the Bills a little, like slightly, but the difference between B and A tier so far is not a ton. If anything, I might bring the Ravens down into C tier, but it's better than the Bengals B. But the B, I think, is a lot better than the helmet. We're in kind of a tough spot. Maybe I would bring the Bills down. I like it a lot, though. Maybe we'll rearrange this. It's kind of like with the same deal. Like, it's just a menacing looking animal logo. You got the head, and that's what the Panthers have, somewhat of what the Ravens have. You know, it's a good looking logo. It doesn't do anything particularly crazy for me. I think it definitely looks good, not bad. And I think that's what B tier is for. Just a whole category of things that, yeah, hey, that's fine. Looks pretty good. I don't think anyone would complain if they went for something different and tried to improve on it. But they're just fine logos. The Lions is kind of along the same lines there. I definitely like the Lions logo. Can I raise this any? I mean, it looks very royal, very regal. It's a good-looking Detroit Lions logo. I don't think they really have to do much to make this better. But again, I think it's kind of like on the same lines of the Bills logo and the Broncos logo. It's fine. I don't think it looks particularly amazing. I'm not sure how much better they could make it look, but it looks pretty good. Not amazing. As we'll move the Packers into A tier. And listen, it's just a G. I get that. It's just the letter G. You got the Packers colors on there. You know, the white, the green, the gold. But just like the Bears, it is iconic. Does it look amazing? No, obviously not. But it just has so much history. It has, yeah, it's one of these probable like 5 logos that you really just think classic NFL. And that's the Cowboys, that's the Bears, that's the Packers, and you probably have the Raiders in there as well, and the Steelers. I think those are probably the big 5 of like classic NFL logo. You know, like the Vikings maybe get into that conversation too. I mean, there are plenty, but I think those are like the iconic old school logos in the NFL. They've never really changed too much, and for good reason. They're just good looking logos. But we'll move to the Texans next. I like the Texans. I live in Houston, so maybe a little biased here, but I think B is a good range for it. Like, B to C tier, I don't feel like there's a ton of stuff going on. Like, are these that much better than these so far? We don't really have that many in C tier. The Cardinals one, like, I could raise it up, but I don't know. It's very close. The Texans, for me, I like it. You got the Longhorn head. You got the star in there as well. Again, classic with Texas. This is the Texas flag, pretty much. Same colors with the star as well. It's a good-looking logo. I don't think it looks crazy good or amazing. It's just clean. It accomplishes what it needs to. Represents Texas, the Texas flag. It's a good-looking logo, but again, not crazy. We'll move on to the Colts, and I think the Colts are probably in that conversation with the Raiders and the Steelers, like we talked about earlier as well. And, you know, for those iconic logos, it's a horseshoe for the Colt. You know, the Colt is a young horse, and that's what the team's named after. I guess young horses. A little bizarre, but it's just a good-looking logo. It's clean. It's simple. And again, it's just pretty classic. We'll move to the Jaguars. The Jags, I mean, this one could be B or C for me. It looks pretty good. You know, I like the colors in the Jags logo. You got the teal, you got the gold. Nice little, like, you know, shadow work. Not a gradient like the helmets used to be. But, you know, just some shadows going in. It looks, again, it's like a more detailed version of the Panthers. I don't think it looks amazing, but it looks pretty good. You know, it's tough to find a real big critique with that, but there's just not a ton of history there yet. And am I basing the logo off history and how iconic it is, or how good it looks? Kind of a combination. So, I mean, this is a biased list, and that's just kind of what we're doing here, unfortunately. There's no real way to just say objectively this is a better looking logo than this one in, you know, like 75% of cases. We'll go to the Chiefs. The Chiefs are a tough one because, once again, like, it's a pretty well-known logo. I think I'm going to drag this into C tier. That's going to be maybe a bit of a hot take because I'm going to be a little bit hypocritical here. But when I look at these logos, and yeah, I talked about these ones being iconic, and that's fine. And you kind of have that with the Chiefs. You know, they moved to Dallas, became the Dallas, or they were the Dallas Texans, moved to Kansas City, became the Chiefs. You got the Arrowhead, which is, you know, the stadium's Arrowhead as well. But you have just KC text on the Arrowhead. It just kind of bores me. I think that's what it comes down to. I don't think it looks particularly clean or cool. I don't love the KC font. I know it's a really recognizable logo, but I just don't love it. I think it's boring, and that's kind of where I am on that. Chargers. I think this one goes into B tier as well. You know, it's a pretty good looking logo, but, you know, nothing crazy. A lot of these logos in this B tier are longer, by the way. You notice that? You know, like longer and flatter, like the Bills, the Lions, the Broncos in there, Ravens to a degree, Panthers a little bit, and then now the Chargers. I like lightning. I think lightning bolt is really, really cool for a logo. You know, you get the charge element in there, even though I think that's another like horse team, Charger. But yeah, I mean, it's a good looking logo. I don't think anything particularly crazy good looking about it, but just pretty good in general. I think it's probably about middle of the pack. I got a lot of ones in B right now, which I think is pretty fair. It's a well-balanced chart thus far, as we'll get to the Rams. Now, this is like bordering on D for me. I don't really like the look of this logo at all, but I want to make a point. The Browns logo is so bad that I'm not going to put another logo, I don't think, in that tier. I mean, it literally, it's LA. You get the horn for the ram kind of swooping around. I think that looks kind of cool, but also I think it looks forced. I don't really think it works that well. Like, I think they could have done it in a way that would make that fit seamlessly, but instead it's just, I mean, the top of this A just swoops around to make the horn, and then the L's pasted on in front. It looks all right. It's not one of my favorites, but it's just when you compare it to what they had previously, I think some of their previous logos looked way better. And the Rams are another one of these teams that have been around forever. A lot of history, a lot of moving around. And this one, they're going for the new age look, and I just don't really like it. Is it as good as the KC logo or the Cardinals? Probably not. You know, I'm going to bring it down to D. I don't like it. I don't like it. I think it's better than the Browns logo by a lot. But I just don't like it. We're gonna commit to that. Oakland Raiders, or Las Vegas Raiders now. The Raiders is borderline S tier for me. Definitely looks really solid. Got the Raiders text on it. Another really recognizable logo. Got the eye patch for the pirate. You have the crossing swords in the background. Definitely like it. Definitely like the Raiders logo. I think A tier is a good spot for it. I think it's a really good looking logo. One of the better ones in the league. Definitely one of the better looking ones. But do I like it as much as the Falcons or the Cowboys? I don't think so. And the reason is this. I just think there's a little bit too much going on. You got the Raiders text. You got a lot of action. It's so detailed. And I think a lot of the time, too many details on a logo can make it less recognizable and less recreatable. Part of why some of these logos are so good is because of their simplicity, and that's why you see some of these iconic logos higher up on the list, because you can easily just associate it quickly, recreate it if you need to. And the Raiders one, it's like, I think you probably could, but there's just a lot of detail. I think that probably holds it out of S tier for me. However, I really like the Dolphins logo. I'm going to bring this to S tier. Again, maybe a little bit hypocritical because this one has a lot going on, a lot of details, but I just think it looks really good. I love the combination of colors. Orange is my favorite color. You got the teal in there. You got the shadow on the underneath of the dolphin. I mean, it just looks really solid to me. I like the dolphin kind of leaping out of the water, as that might look like, with what looks like kind of like a starburst in the back, like a big sun shining brightly. And I just really like the colors. I like the way it looks a lot. I think the dolphin's really clean, and then you have some super fun elements in the background. I just happen to like the Dolphins logo a lot, so it's one of the better ones in the league for me. Vikings. I'll throw that immediately into A tier. Another one that's pretty detailed, similarly to the Raiders. A lot of details on here, but another really recognizable logo of some of the classic old school NFL. And this one has changed a bit over time, but has pretty much kept the same theme. It's a good looking logo, strong, Viking. You got the horns on the helmet, the big handlebar mustache, and it just looks like what a Viking should look like while implementing the team colors. Of course, the gold, very easy, but the purple in there as well on the bottom of the helmet. Just think it looks really solid, and I think you'd be hard-pressed to disagree. As we'll move to the Patriots, this one's tough. I think I would go top of B tier on the Patriots logo. I mean, you got like the revolutionary guy. You got the American flag type on the, what is it, the Minutemen type helmet or hat. Yeah, pretty much. And yeah, it's a fine looking logo. I think that's fair to say. My only big critique with this one, and I know this from so many thumbnail creations where I've had to use the Patriots logo, it's so long. It's such a long logo, and it doesn't really fit so well because it's so flat and so long that it's tough to really make it work. And listen, I am going to factor that in. It's my own personal experience with the logo. I think it looks good. I don't think it looks amazing or anything. I think B tier is probably right around where this belongs, looking at some of the other logos for sure. Saints logo. I like S tier on this one. There's just something about the fleur-de-lis that looks really, really good, and I think it's iconic as well. You could definitely make an argument that this is in the same tier with the Bears and the Packers logo, but I like it a little bit more than those. I think it just looks like a really solid logo. I think it not only represents the Saints well, but the city of New Orleans and their French influence with the fleur-de-lis. Just think it looks really, really good and represents New Orleans pretty well. As we get to the Giants logo, I'm a Giants fan, as you guys know, but at the same time, it's like, I don't love this logo. And it's not just because it's too simple. I mean, it just literally is lowercase ny, and the end's being supported by the base of the Y as it loops or wraps underneath. It's just boring. I mean, I think that's all there is to it for me. It looks fine. It's a pretty easy to replicate logo, but it's just boring. I mean, their old one, which I'll show you guys in a second, it literally just says Giants, but it does so much more for me. I just like the text a whole lot better. This is just so simple, and I get that's what they're going for, but I can't rank this especially high. When you look at these logos, I mean, the one in 1975 is maybe the ugliest thing I've ever seen, but the 2000 to now logo is literally just the one that was used in the 60s and early 70s with an outline. That's it. It's just not very creative. I know that's what they're going for. They're trying to get back to something clean and really simple, but it's just not great. I like the one that was used, throughout the 70s, 80s, and 90s. I think this one looks really solid. I know it's just the text, but there's something about it to me that I just like a lot more. I don't know. I think it's just the font. It looks really, really solid with the underline. I don't know. I don't really think there's a whole lot more to explain than that. Some of these ones at the top, I mean, just obviously very old, and there's a ton going on, and it looks weird. But the Giants are weird. It's like, what would you make to show off a giant? I get that they have a tough task, but I don't know that they're nailing it right now. And I think the Jets are on the same plane as the Giants. I know it's another kind of classic logo. It's just so boring. It says a team name, and they throw a little football on there. Whoop-de-doo, dude. Got the outline. I mean, it's in the shape of a football, pretty much. I just don't like the way it looks. It's just so boring. It's like they took a shape of a football, filled it in with green, had a white outline, put the name of the team on there, and another little football. Like, that's the whole logo. I just think it's boring. It doesn't do it for me. Now, the Philadelphia Eagles have recently changed logos. I think this one is kind of on the same track as some of the ones we've seen in B already, and I've explained that quite a bit. I think this one does look quite good, though. I think it would have a case to go into the A tier, so maybe throw it on the top of B. But let me talk about their new logo right now, or new secondary logo at least, because they still have the bird, but this is the text they used to use for Eagles, and it really fit with the bird pretty well, I thought. It's a little crazy looking, but I don't hate it. This new one, God, it's just so boring. It really is. I do kind of like how it's almost like a bird is built into the shape of the E's. I think that looks kind of cool, but it's just so simple. And it literally just says Eagles. They didn't take any risks at all. And I just think it was, I don't know. Again, just kind of boring. Pittsburgh Steelers. This one is bordering on S tier for me. And I've talked about it before. It's a classic logo. You have the 3 main materials to produce steel. And that you have the yellow for the coal. You have the red for the iron ore. And the blue for steel scrap. I guess I just looked into this more. The red is really an orange for the iron ore. They're hypocycloids, and they also have another meaning as well. So the hypocycloids are the diamond shapes that you see there. Steel lightens your work, brightens your leisure, and widens your world. And then represent the 3 materials used to produce steel: yellow for coal, orange for iron ore, and blue for steel scrap. Now, it's cool. They're the Steelers. Like, they have the text on there. I think it's kind of along the same lines of the Raiders. This, I just think, is a little bit better than the Raiders logo. I definitely like it. I don't think it's, like, crazy amazing, but it is borderline S tier in a way. It's just a really solid logo. Seahawks, I've talked about these kind of style of logos for a while in this video. It's just this wide logo, kind of menacing looking animal. And it's a Seahawk. It's a bird still at the end of the day. But I think they've done a pretty good job with it. I like how the team colors are really prominently featured on there with the navy and the silver, along with the alternate kind of third color. The green they have in there makes up the eye. I think it looks very solid, but I don't think it's much higher than B tier. As we'll go to the 49ers. Now, based on my grading criteria so far, the Niners logo could either be in A tier or C tier. And I think I'm going to throw it in C tier. And again, it's just kind of boring to me. Like, I know it's another classic one. You have the classic SF on there. But in the same way that I don't really like the Chiefs logo, I don't love this 49ers logo. It's just kind of boring to me. And I have to bring it down a mark just for that reason alone. And I know that might be seen as a hot take, but I just don't love the logo. As we'll move to the Bucs, I do really like the Bucs logo. Kind of have a similar theme with the Raiders and the swashbuckling action going on there. The cross swords, you get the football on there, and the skull and crossbones, but it's swords. Looks really solid. You get the sword kind of hoisting up this flag. It's shredded a little bit. Definitely a tough to recreate logo with all the fine details on there, but I think pretty memorable, pretty recognizable, and I just think it looks really solid over there. I'll show you more clearly on the screen. Sorry, my face cam was blocking that a bit, but I just think it's a pretty good looking logo. I like it quite a bit. I like it more than a lot of these ones in B tier, so I figure throw it up there. And the Titans. The Titans one's interesting for me because I definitely like the way it looks a lot. I really do. You get the T, you have the 3 red stars there. I'm sure they have some type of meaning. So the white ring symbolizes the sun with 3 stars, and the 3 stars are kind of featured similar to the ones on the flag of Tennessee, so that's pretty cool. And the blazing fire kind of makes it look like a comet. The T kind of looks like a sword. I think it's a really cool looking logo. It's a little wild. I like it a lot though. I like it more than a lot of these ones in here already. So I'll leave it at the top of B tier. I'm not sure it quite gets into A for me, but I think it's a pretty good looking logo overall. There is a lot going on, for sure. And it doesn't beat the Oilers logo. The Oilers logo would be an S tier for me all day. any day of the week. I know there's not a ton going on. It's just so classic to me. It looks so good. It's simple. It's to the point. I think the same reasons that the Dallas Cowboys logo looks so good, I think the Oilers, for the same reason, look so good. If this were still a team, I'd be S tier all day. Just my opinion. And then finishing things off, we got the new Commanders logo. I don't think it's good. I don't. You know, there are probably a lot of people that like it. It's very simple. I think it could be in C tier, but I'm going to penalize them because it's new. They just came out with it, and it's so boring. It's so boring to me. So as you can see here, it says the angled cuts and serifs at the top of the W are intended to depict progress and forward movement. Quite a change from their previous one. The logo gives a nod to the military with slanted stripes the team says are inspired by military rank insignia. And I do see that. I do see that. It is fairly clean, but I just don't really think it does a whole ton for me. And again, some of you are going to like this more than I do. It's definitely not worse than the Browns, and neither is the Rams. It definitely could be in C tier. I wouldn't throw it as high as B, but I just think it's so tame. And if they were really going to go for more of a military theme with the Commanders, I would have really liked to see like a military star on this somewhere. Now, this is apparently a revision idea from Reddit, and this still like isn't all the way there for me, especially this top one on the white background. It just seems like it's just oddly sliced blocks floating in midair, so I don't like that. But I do like the stars on the side. I feel like those could have been implemented. I just feel like this is another case of a team playing it too safe, and for that reason, I'm going to hold them back a little bit. This is my tier list. I'm not sure how I expected this to look. I'm kind of all over the place. Some I like for just because I like it. Others, you know, I like it because there's history and it's very identifiable. But you know, at the end of the day, like personal taste and preference is exactly that. So some of you are going to disagree heavily with me on some of these, and vice versa. So I think that's all there is today for this video. Hopefully you guys are excited for some of these positional tier lists, quarterback, running back, receiver, and maybe even NFL teams coming up in the near future. But these are the logos ranker, and we'll probably also be using the logos for NFL teams if and when we get to that video. And it's going to look a whole lot different than that, because I can tell you right now, the Falcons will not be here. But thanks so much for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.